Break this down for me. Why would a potentially $5 billion penalty actually be a bargain for Facebook, and what should be put in place for the company, if not that?
You know, this is just a slap on the wrist. You consider the current law says that $42,000 per penalty should be the going price. This would result in billions and billions and billions. Let's not forget that Facebook said that it did not collect private user data. In fact, it does. It said it didn't share it with third parties. In fact, it has. So what needs to happen is the FTC needs to get tough. They need to name Mark Zuckerberg if, in fact, he knew about what was going on. They need to stop Facebook from tracking consumers the way they do. They need to stop the data collection that Facebook has been using. And they need to stop Facebook from sharing this data with third parties or even among different Facebook platforms. It's time to get serious here.
Yeah, Senator, it's certainly an issue with Facebook, especially when you're talking about this situation that's playing out with the FTC. What's not clear to me, though, is whether those rules of the road should be under the FTC's purview or whether lawmakers like yourself should be drafting legislation to more broadly curtail some of these issues or focus on some of these issues that are affecting the industry overall.
Well, we may need to do that. I mean, let's not forget, however, the FTC does have enforcement authority, and part of the reason that we're in this spot and Facebook is doing what it's been doing is the FTC wasn't serious back in 2011. They didn't get tough with Facebook then. They should have. And now they need to get tough now. They need to impose the penalties that are serious. They need to enforce the law to the maximum extent possible. If they need additional enforcement authority, Congress should look at that. But that's no excuse for not enforcing the law now, and that's what the FTC needs to do.
Senator, are you calling for a Facebook-specific punishment here around what they're allowed to do with data, or are you calling for just a new way that we should be looking at companies, you know, Amazon, Google, et cetera, what they're allowed to do with consumer data? Because I mean, there are all kinds of companies collecting massive amounts of data, might be misusing it. We don't necessarily know.
Well, let's start with Facebook because they're the ones who are currently facing the FTC investigation. And the truth is Facebook is operating under a consent decree in which they agreed not to share user information with third parties without consent. But we know that they did, in fact, share that information with third parties without consumers' consent. That's a big problem. So that needs to be priority one, actually enforcing the consent decree, enforcing the law, and punishing Facebook accordingly. I mean, look, if the FTC is just going to be a traffic cop that writes a little ticket every few years, Facebook is just going to budget for that. I mean, right now, Facebook is trying to negotiate down the price of the fine in public, for heaven's sake. This needs to stop. The FTC needs to enforce the law that we have on the books. And beyond that, yes, we need to take a look at the whole business model here.
Senator, as a practical matter, how can any CEO, in this case Zuckerberg, be held personally liable for the actions of tens of thousands of employees? And to what degree do you see that element as being a deal breaker here?
Well, it depends on what he knew. I mean, the answer is if he personally knew what was going on, if he approved of these practices, this third-party sharing of data, for example, then he should be named by the FTC. And the bigger point here is that the FTC needs to get tough. No more slaps on the wrist. They've done that before. Enforce the laws, hold Facebook accountable, and protect consumers.
Senator, before we let you go, I want to shift gears here, and I just want to get your thoughts on whether the social media companies, whether you see them as biased in how they're policing their sites and who can participate on them, especially in light of some of the bannings of pundits and entities that we saw last week.
Yeah, I think it's very concerning. I think we do see a pattern of bias among these social giants. I mean, they're discriminating against conservative and libertarian viewpoints in light of their Section 230 immunity, which is a major gift to the industry. They're supposed to be neutral platforms that allow all viewpoints. I'm concerned they're not doing that.